Hello. Uh, Welcome to the Education USA Traditional Thursday Lecture. Thank you for everyone who has just joined us. I will just start with a very important reminder that Education USA is your official source of information about the educational opportunities in the US. And my name is Yulia Piskorska. I am the Education USA advisor. I will be moderating this session today and we'll focus on the topic of applying to psychology graduate programs. And today with us, we have two experts from the University of Houston who I'm looking forward to introducing just in a moment. But before we start, let me just say that you will have a chance to ask questions. So, in the very end of the presentation, you can leave your question in the comments and we will make sure to address it. Also, if you happen to have questions during the presentation, you can also leave your questions in the comments section. We will address it in the end of the presentation. Today, you will learn about the peculiarities of applying to graduate programs in psychology. You will learn about what documents you'd have to submit, what things you should consider before applying, and also you will learn about what types of program they are in psychology, what types of degrees, the structure of the program, and generally some insights about studying in the US, studying psychology in the US on the graduate level, either master's or PhD. So, without further ado, I will introduce our speakers briefly. Today, we're joined by the director of graduate international admissions of University of Houston, Fitzgerald Smith, and Roberta Knott, who is a former psychology professor in the same institution, the University of Houston, Texas. And also, Roberta has been working with us as a Peace Corps, virtual Peace Corps volunteer. So I'm very happy to welcome both of the speakers today. And we'll start with talking about the application process to graduate programs. And I'm happy to pass to pass the microphone to Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much, Yulia. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm here to talk about the application process to graduate school at the University of Houston main campus. Okay, just a bit about me. Like Yulia said, I am the Director of Graduate and International Admissions. I have been working with the international student population for quite some time, over 10 years. And so I am very enthusiastic about persons who are willing to come over and pursue education here in the US. And I'm here to guide you through the application process, okay? So that if you have any questions or any doubts, any concerns, of course, you can always ask me. Okay, so I'm going to go through my presentation, all right? And I'm going to give you the basics of what you would need to even begin your application here at University of Houston. Okay, let me see if I can advance the slides. Let's see. There we go. All right, great. All right, so let's talk about the application process and, why attend the graduate school, why UOH on a whole, okay? Programs offered, how to pay for graduate school, and how to apply. Okay, so a graduate degree helps advancing your career, right, in your desired field. So I know a lot of you are interested in psychology, okay, and typically psychology students, right, usually go up to at least the PhD level. And so we have programs for that, right? We do have programs in both the College of Education and the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences that are psychology based. And so, when you go into our website and apply, you'll be able to select these programs, but you can also contact the colleges, right, that these programs belong to, and then find out some more information about it, okay, as a prospective student. Of course, a graduate degree may help increase your professional options as well, too. It improves self-confidence, definitely. Graduate degree may nurture your intellectual curiosity and spark passion. And a graduate degree may help you increase your lifetime salary. Okay, so all good motivators right here. Okay, so why University of Houston and why University of Houston Grad School? Well, we have over 150 master's, doctoral, and professional programs. Our programs are ranked to high student satisfaction. Okay, top 50 programs in the U.S. will report. University of Houston, we rank the second most public university in the U.S. And almost 10% of our student population is international, so that's not that high. Okay? And number two, in the nation, sorry, for online graduate degree programs, 43 online degrees. Okay, and then we are tier one research institution. Well, why Houston? Okay, in traveling to as an international student, right, to pursue graduate studies, the city in which the school is located to is very important, right? You want to do your research and see, hey, what are some things the city is known for? What are some things that I can do there? What are some things to expect? So Houston, of course, is many things, but it's one thing above all, right? A city that always looks forward, never looks back. Here are some things you should know about the city. It is the fourth largest city in the U.S. population-wise. Okay, it is home to the largest medical center in the world. Okay, the city usually boasts about that. There are about Fortune 500 companies who have the headquarters in Houston, Texas. 445 languages, including we're talking about dialects as well too, are spoken in the city. So it's a pretty international city. Okay, and it is the number one city to start your career. Okay, so these are all some helpful facts about Houston, Texas. All right, so I've listed the colleges, all right, that belong to the University of Houston Graduate School. That is where you can pursue a graduate degree from. Okay, we have the College of Architecture Design, College of Arts, College of Business Education, Engineering and Technology. Okay, we have the College of Hotel and Restaurant Management. Right now, it's a College of global health. Okay, global business. We have a College of Law, College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, Natural Science and Mathematics, Nursing, Dormitory, Pharmacy, Medicine, and Social Work. Also, other colleges, and some of these are also professional. Now, I know that the majority of you in the audience right now are interested in psychology programs. So you will either be applying to the College of Education or the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. Okay. And of course, please, I encourage you to visit our website and where we will list all the programs that are offered. Okay. And here's a link on the presentation. All right. And also we have programs including, on our website, the program contacts are there as well. Okay. And when I mean program contacts, I'm usually referring to program coordinators or graduate advisors that you can contact. Okay. You can send them an email and they can help you with the application process as well and answer more specific questions about the program. Okay. So, how it is that we pay for graduate school. Okay. And so there are several options. Okay, there's graduate fellowships, funds, and assistantships. There's graduate school fund, tuition waivers. Okay, and that means that if you come in as a graduate student and you're getting funded, you may be eligible for in-state tuition. Okay, there's work study. There's external scholarships. You may be getting a scholarship from your home country or some other organization that is funding your graduate studies. Okay, and there's some more. So I encourage you once again to visit our website and go to the section on graduate school funding, okay, so that you can learn more. All right, of course, continuing how to pay for graduate school. What do we need to do? Okay, plan ahead. Okay, do your research, apply and budget for your course of studies. Now, the process for actually applying to graduate school is a multi-step one. And so let me just give you an overview of what it consists of. First, you have to navigate yourself to our website, okay? You can go to the graduate school website, of course, or you can go to your individual program website, for instance, in the College of Education, College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, and the psychology programs that you may be interested in. And there will be a link to the application. The applications are all online, okay? And so what you'll do is that you'll click on that link and you'll begin the application process. We use an application database called ApplyWeb, all right? So you'll be asked to create an account, username and password, and then you'll go through the application process. The graduate school does host the application, which means that we're the ones who monitor it and maintain it and make changes to it. Okay, so everything ports back to our actual website. All right, so once you go through the application, all right, then once you're done with the requirements, then you'll be asked to pay your fee, okay? And so typically, if you're an international student, you will pay $80 for the application fee, okay? Once you submit the application, it means that you would have used a credit or debit card to pay for the application, okay? So that is what means submission of the application. And then once the application fee is paid and the application is submitted, then we will receive it, and as well as your programs will be able to review your application. Once your application has been reviewed, okay, then what comes next? Like, for instance, if you are admitted, okay, the university, particularly my department, is going to ask things for like official transcripts and official test scores. You see, those are what we call mandatory or basic requirements of each graduate school applicant, okay? And so we want to be able to verify your previous degree earned with official transcripts, okay? And for most international students, what that means is that we require official transcripts in your native language and English translations, as well as a final diploma, okay, from your undergraduate institution, or in the case of, if you're going for a PhD, also your graduate institution, okay, because a lot of PhD programs require a master's degree. Keep in mind, all this information is also on website, so you can feel free to navigate to it and look at the requirements, okay, in terms of international transcripts. Also to note that when you apply and then you have foreign credentials, that what will happen is that we have a team of transcript analysts who will evaluate these foreign credentials and determine what the US degree equivalence is, as well as the GPA equivalency, okay? And so once we determine that, then we do what we call a transcript evaluation, okay? We complete that report, and that is viewable by the persons who are actually making the admissions decision in the respective programs. Okay, so once we've gotten the official transcripts, we can see that, hey, if you did get a previous degree, okay, whether the bachelor's or master's, and then we post that to your application, to your account. We also, like I mentioned, we need test scores, okay? So many programs require things like the GRE, okay? If you're an international student and you're from a non-English speaking country, we require English language proficiency. We need you to be able to demonstrate that somehow, okay? Your knowledge or proficiency in English. And so once you do that, and I'll get into this more, but you want to take an English language proficiency test. We have those offered as well. Well, I mean, they're offered internationally, but we list them on our website, okay? And typically, most persons take the TOEFL. A lot of persons take Duolingo, but we also offer, we also accept IELTS and the first test of English. And each program has additional requirements. Some programs may want resume, okay, a portfolio, some, a more extensive personal statement. And those are all listed in the application, so you can see. Okay, so as I mentioned, you go to the website, okay, and then you click on the apply button, right? And then you start your application, okay? And then you navigate through that. It depends on the requirements of the different programs is varied by the program, okay? So if you have any particular questions, you want to contact the college, more particularly the program advisor, okay? So that you may find out exactly what is it that the requirements are. And like I mentioned before, the application must be paid with a credit card, okay, at the time of submission. Okay, so I mentioned the transcripts, all right? So some programs require official transcripts to be reviewed. Check if your program advisor to find out more. A note about transcripts, keep in mind that when you're actually applying, be sure to upload scans of your official transcripts from previous universities. Okay, most decisions are made on scans of official transcripts. Now, when I mean official transcripts, which will be considered at the time unofficial. Now, keep in mind that when I say a scannable official, I mean that the international academic documents that you received, okay, would be your transcript and your diploma, and that says that either your degree is in progress, okay, which means that if you're applying for the fall, probably you'll graduate at the end of the spring, right? Usually, typically at the end of May, or depends on the structure of your semesters in your university. But keep in mind that we do need signatures or a stamp from the registrar's office or the office that is designated to actually approve and send out the transcript. That is very important. That's what makes it official. And as well as this kind of diploma is also good. And so you upload scans of that in the application process, and we use that to review in admissions as well as evaluate your transcripts. Okay. Now, of course, once you are done, right, with that process, the admissions process, and you submit the application and everything has been reviewed, and then you've been offered admissions, then we require official transcripts. And what official transcripts mean is that the same documents that you would have uploaded during your application process, then we require those, but we require those to be sent in sealed and stamped envelopes, okay, by your university. And that's very important. Keep in mind that we require also the same thing, the transcripts or whatever the international documents are. Maybe it might be what we call the diploma supplement, okay, as well too. We take those in a layer of transcripts. And so if you have those, then you want to put them in a sealed and stamped envelope. The transcripts do not have to come directly from your university. They can be sent to you, but it's just that if you send them to us, if you mail them to us, they have to be in the sealed and stamped envelope from your university. Okay, those are tested copies. Now you also have the option of bringing those in person to us once you arrive at the University of Houston Graduate School. Okay, you can visit our main office and you can turn in these documents. Of course, we require them also in a sealed and stamped envelope. But what we will do is that we will accept them, and then if they're in a sealed and stamped envelope, we'll make sure everything is fine inside the envelope, and that will tell you that, hey, you're okay, and then we'll be able to post your degree to your account. Okay. Just a quick note: if you have any issues with submitting your official transcript in your first semester at the University of Houston, then that's fine. We will allow that, and we'll give you at least one semester to turn in these documents. Okay, so I mentioned the GRE requirement. Well, a lot of programs do require the GRE. Okay, well, and a lot of programs are also waiving it, right? But we want to visit the program's website and take a look at the requirements to make sure that the GRE is either required or is not. If you're planning to send the GRE, then our school code is listed here, 6870. Okay, and then of course the GRE is administered by ETS. You can let ETS know that to send the scores to University of Houston. Once you receive them, they will be deemed as official. Okay. A lot of programs require letters of recommendation, and these are things that are submitted during the application process. Okay. Some also require the resume, personal statement, and there are other requirements as well too, such as a writing sample. Okay. Maybe a portfolio. But these are program specific. So once you go through the application for that particular program, like for instance, the psychology programs, they let you know what admission requirements that they have and what you should upload to the application. Okay, deadlines and decisions. All right. You want to be sure if you're applying to a particular semester, you want to be sure what the application deadline date is. So please visit our website. Okay. And then we have a list of those on there. Because you want to be able to apply in time. Okay. Applicants will receive an email notifying them of the admission decision. And so once the review process has been completed, and then you've been deemed admissible, okay, or not, then you will be able to log back into your application into a portal to look at what the decision is. And hopefully it's, of course, you receive an offer letter. Okay, so requirements, criteria. So we have what we call a fast track application. All right. And then this is recently implemented. And but this is not something that is usually given to international students, which I'm sure the majority of persons in the audience are. But for instance, if you were to come to U of H, right, and you did an undergraduate degree, which means you did your bachelor's degree, okay, and you're going to transition into being a master's program or a PhD or just a graduate applicant, then we do offer a fast track admissions process for certain applications, all right, where you don't have to submit the full gamut of admissions requirements. Okay, it's simplified basically, and so typically it waives application fees, and you don't have to submit things like a portfolio or personal statement. All right, typically we just need the UH transcript, possibly a resume, and that's pretty much it. Okay, and so you receive your decision. Hopefully, we usually target within 10 days. Okay, of that fast track application. All right, these are all our social medias. This is how you can get in contact with us on social media, and you can take a look at our initiatives and good information about graduate admissions. Okay, we have a Facebook page, Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram. All right, we also have a LinkedIn. So I know that's not listed here, but you want to visit us as well. And if you want to get in contact with a person, I know I'm the representative right now, and of course you can feel free to get in contact with me. But our recruiter, okay, and the liaison for a lot of persons interested in grad school is Miss Crystal Sugela. Okay, she's our, like I mentioned, she's a recruiter, and you also want to email gradschool@uh.edu. So you can feel free to email Crystal, okay, KYSUGULL @central.uh.edu. That's on the presentation, as well as gradschool@uh.edu for more information. We will have a representative get back in contact with you to or direct you to the person who can answer your questions in the program. All right, so questions. I'm not sure, Yulia, if I'm supposed to answer the questions now or after, but I'm here and willing to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation and for such a detailed overview of the application process to a graduate school at the University of Houston. If the audience members have questions, and I strongly encourage you to have questions and actually put them in the chat and in the comments actually, and we'll take the questions after the second presentation. So please leave your questions in the comments. We will get back to them. And now I am happy to introduce the second speaker for today, who will get into the detail about the graduate psychology programs in the US. Roberta Nutt, the PhD in psychology and former clinical psychology professor at the University of Houston. Roberta, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Happy to be here. And I thought before I'd start, I'd give the audience a little background about myself to explain some of the where I have experience in this area. I have actually been the director of training of doctoral programs at two universities, Texas Women's University for 31 years, and then the University of Houston for about 14. And also have done a number, maybe 30 accreditation site visits for the American Psychological Association and other doctoral programs. So that's given me a pretty good feel about how programs work. So I'd like to start with my slides. Okay, the next one now. I'm going to be talking mostly about doctoral programs, but I will talk about master's programs, some at the end. The first thing I want to do is talk about different specialties in psychology. And I'm doing this because I can't tell you how many students have come to me after they've been admitted to programs and said, people only told me about one specialty, and I didn't know there were so many, and I may not have gotten into the right one. So I'm going to give you two slides of specialties and some background, but I haven't covered all of them. The first slide are ones that I would call basically practice specialties. And people have often heard the most about clinical psychology, but there are actually four that I put on this list: counseling psychology, clinical psychology, school psychology, and industrial organizational psychology. Counseling and clinical psychology are fairly similar now. Historically, clinical psychologists worked with the more disturbed people in hospitals, etc., who are confined, and counseling psychologists more worked with normal populations, people with everyday problems, family issues, etc. The lines between counseling psychology and clinical psychology have blurred some. So there's a lot of overlap. In some physicians, some hospital physicians, you'll find either one. In community health centers, you might find either one. If you're interested in a more practice-oriented psychology, then you should read up about the specific programs at specific universities, because they'll vary some by university. School psychology is also a large specialty, and these are psychologists who work in the school systems with children and with teachers. And some of them go into practice working with children. And then industrial organization psychologists work in businesses, counsel people into their work sites, help people decide the work sites and fit into them. So all four of these are very practice oriented. To give you an idea of the size, I can't tell you about industrial organizational, but for counseling psychology, there are about 75 doctoral programs in the United States for you to choose from. Clinical psychology, it's something like 130 different programs for you to look at. And school psychology has something like 60 accredited programs. So you have a lot of variety in all these programs. I'm sure the industrial organizational ones are somewhere in those numbers as well. But you have lots of programs to choose from. Now on the next slide, we have a sample of other specialties that you might be interested in. And these are not necessarily practice specialties. They're more often research or teaching specialties. And if you have a doctoral degree in these, you're not going to be going into practice probably. You're more likely to be going into a teaching at some level. It could be junior college, it could be university, and you might want to be a researcher. So social psychology looks at broad social problems. Health psychology looks at the interaction of mental health and physical health. Forensic psychology are the people who work with the court system, do jury selection and things like that. There are a couple of programs in the country that are clinical psychology, law psychology, where they combine the forensic. Very interesting and tough programs. Educational psychology looks at educational processes, developmental at how people grow and develop, neuropsychology at brain pathways, and there are others. Geropsychology working with elderly populations. There are many of them. I'm just wanting to make you aware that you have lots of choices. So if you're interested in psychology, really look into what the options are. Just don't pick the first thing that you're interested in. Okay. So that's my background to give you an idea of what to look for. Okay. Most people, the majority of people who apply to psychology do go to the applied programs, the practice-oriented programs. And if you're interested in counseling, clinical, or school psychology, you should first make sure that they're accredited by the American Psychological Association. There are some programs that are not accredited by APA, but the problem is you may have trouble getting licensed or ever getting a job if you come out of a non-accredited program. So particularly if you're going to be working in the US, but I think even for coming back to Ukraine or going to another to be credentialed, go for the highest possible credentials that you would have. So be careful when you're looking at the programs. If you go to the American Psychological Association website, apa.org, you can find a list of all the accredited programs by specialty, and it will tell you where they are. You will also notice that in clinical and counseling psychology, you will see two different degrees. The PhD is a traditional degree for all doctoral programs, not just in psychology, but in everything you can think of: sociology, the sciences, engineering, everything. And PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy. It's an old term that doesn't tell you very much. But when you get a PhD, you're also getting a heavy dose of research. So in the PhD programs and the applied programs, you will get both practice and research background. Now, there were people, this was like 10 or 20 years ago, who said, we just want to practice. We don't need that much research. We need some to be good consumers of research, but we really want them just practice. So the PsyD degree was developed. It stands for Doctor of Psychology. I would not recommend that for any Ukrainian students because it is very much a US-based degree, and it works fine for US citizens who want to stay in America and only do practice. And if you wanted to come here and only do practice and not be international, it would be okay. But if you're planning to get a degree and go back to Ukraine or anywhere else, I would recommend the PhD. Really ignore the PsyDs. They will not be recognized some places. And then also look at faculty expertise. What specific things do they have that you're interested in? Who might you want to work with? And one thing to check out very carefully is doctoral programs have two different ways of applying, of admitting students. Some of them look at the group of students who apply and pick the ones that fit best with them overall. Some programs are tying you to your mentor as soon as you came in, and they will admit by which faculty members have room for new students to mentor. So if you're applying to a program that has that mentorship model, then you need to figure out why you want to go there and how you match with that faculty member and really make the case. I can remember a few years ago, a student while I was at the University of Houston was from South Korea. And she very much wanted to work with a particular professor in the program. So she not only specifically in all her application materials made her application match his expertise and explain why she wanted to work with him in particular, she actually flew in for an interview. We were much impressed. We were quite willing to do interviews by Zoom, but she was going to make sure to make a good impression, and she really did. But she was very clear. So make sure you check out which way they admit students in doctoral programs. If you do it as a group, then aim your application toward the program in general. If they admit by mentorship by faculty, and they will tell you that on the website, then make sure you craft your application to match with that mentor and make it clear. Okay, next one. Okay, what does a doctoral program look like in psychology? This is something that'll hit for all of them. But this is what it takes to get a doctoral degree. First off, of course, you would assume there's doctoral level coursework. Usually, if you're a full-time student, coursework generally takes about 4 years. And it covers all kinds of areas. I'm not going to go into specifics on that. I'll let you look that up because that would take an hour in itself. But there's a variety of coursework, some of it applied, some of it research-oriented, etc. As I said, there's some that is research-oriented, and you will do some research projects at various levels, sometimes working at other people's at first and then designing your own as you advance. And then there are many courses aimed at practical skills, theories of counseling and psychotherapy, and various other working on your skills process. And then pretty soon into the program, you'll start practicum courses where you will be placed somewhere at a site. It could be a university counseling center. It could be a psychotherapy site outside the university where you would be doing a small amount of practice under very direct supervision. And you get to practice your skills and meet with a faculty member to work on those skills in a practicum class. There will be in a PhD program, any kind of PhD program, a dissertation. At the end, you do a science project that is all your own. You will propose it. You will work with a faculty member to design it. You will have a whole committee that you work with. You will have an initial presentation to them. You will go out and do the research, collect the data, analyze it, whatever kind of project it is, and then defend it to your faculty. And then the final part of a doctoral program in applied psychology is an internship. And you apply for this separately. It's not part of your program. I mean, it's part of your program to graduate, but you don't do your internship at your university. You apply to practice sites all over the country. It could be hospitals, it could be health centers, it could be all kinds of places. You apply all over the country and you get hopefully accepted to one of your top sites, and you go off work full-time at this site. You're there full-time for a year, and you get paid. So you don't have to worry about assistantships or stipends for that. You get paid for internship more than you make as a student, so that's a plus. So those are the parts of it. And then what can you do with it? Generally, what can you do with a degree? You can do lots of things with a psychology doctoral degree, and also master's degree. We'll talk about that. You could end up in a research position. You could end up in institutional practice where you're practicing in a hospital or community mental health center. You could go into private practice, either on your own or with some other people, where you're just working on your own and dealing with your own insurance. You could go into teaching at various levels, college and university levels in particular. You could end up doing consulting. Usually comes later in your career after you've got some other kind of experience. You could move into administration. That often happens, particularly if you're in a university setting teaching. Often people work up into administrative positions, or you could do all kinds of combinations of these. When I was at Texas Women's University, I was doing research and teaching and some private practice on the side, because I thought if I was teaching, in a practice-oriented program, I should be keeping my skills up and teaching what was current. And then I was administrator of a doctoral program, so I combined a number of those. And then at the University of Houston, I mostly did teaching because I was brought in as clinical faculty member, not as a research-oriented one. So there are all kinds of combinations, and those are just examples. I know I've got a meeting coming up with one of my graduates from TWU who's doing a presentation on a podcast he's developed that has gotten very popular. I mean, so the younger generation has come up with career options that most of us who've been in the career for a while don't even know about. So my main point is there are lots of things you can do with a psychology degree. Okay, so how do you get into a psychology program? What kind of requirements do we have? And I'm glad Fitz has given you the general picture of that. First off, of course, we look at your grades, and your transcript goes both to the graduate school in general to us to see how you've done. I don't know if TOEFL tests are required. I know at TWU they were at some point. Sometimes they're concerned about your mastery of English. I'm not sure about that. The other test that I didn't put on here, but that I should mention, may or may not be required, is the GRE, the Graduate Records Exam. And the reason I didn't put it up there is it's become questionable. It used to be standard that we would use that as a test, but there's been some controversy about whether it's fair to all cultural groups within the U.S. It tends to favor some groups over others, so a lot of doctoral programs have dropped it. So the GRE may or may not be required, but you may not have to deal with it. I just wanted to mention it. We look at relevant experience. Do you have some things that you've done that show your interest in psychology? Now, we know if you're applying from undergraduate to graduate, you probably don't have any work experience, but volunteer experience really matters. I know before I applied to graduate school, I had volunteered a couple things. One of them was in a mental health agency. They allowed me to volunteer to do some work there, not to see clients, but to work there and kind of get an idea of what it was like. So, any kind of relevant experience you can have that shows you're interested in people, in helping people grow, and any kind of thing you can do as a volunteer or paid is important. And then there will be generally an essay required. And they'll give you some information about what they want in the essay, but mostly it's a way for them to get acquainted with you. You want to certainly cover in your essay why you're a good fit for their program. Why, what you want to do with your life and your career. Getting a degree from this program will really help you get there. So you want to do goodness of fit. They're also looking at your English writing ability to see how good you are with English. And I know one thing I did 2 years ago when I first started working with the education office, when I was doing the virtual service with Peace Corps, is I read some people's essays to help give them ideas and certainly to look at their English. So no matter how good your English is, if you've got a teacher or someone who's really good, have them read your essays. Make sure it is the best possible that you can put together. And make it interesting. I mean, these people are reading a number of essays. Most doctoral programs will get 150, 200 applications. When I applied to graduate school at my program, they said they had 250 applicants that year for 7 slots. So they have a lot of essays to read, and they will divide them up some, so not everybody reads all of them. But make your essay something that will catch their interest and make them want to have you around for a few years. And show in your essay, put up my essay slide if you would, you can find it there. I've mentioned introduction to who you are, career goals, relevant experience. Titus, but show that you've researched their program. Make your letter clearly that it's not a form letter. You don't want your letter to read like a form letter. Now that we have computers, you can use parts of it as a form letter and move things around, of course. But make sure that there's some very specific things in your essay that shows that you have researched that program, you know what they have to offer, and you mention it. I would highlight multiple times that goodness of fit issue. Show them why you're a good fit. Tell your story in an interesting way so they'd want to meet you, and match again with faculty interest, in particular if they go that faculty mentoring system. And then my last slide on this part would be doctoral programs usually do interviews. They really want to meet you. They want to make sure they're going to turn out people who are not disturbed themselves exactly. So interviews are in person. They will do virtual interviews, certainly for people who are international applicants, because they don't expect you to fly in like the student I mentioned from South Korea. And the content of the interviews will be very similar to what's on your essays. You know, who are you? Why are you applying? Do you have questions for us? Make sure you have some questions. It shows that you're interested. Don't think the interview is one way. An interview should be two-way, and it shows your interest that you have questions. And as I said, it'll be similar to essay. And then for master's programs, I'm just going to build on what I've said. If you want to come just for a master's degree and not want a doctorate, and you want to do practice, master's degrees are generally oriented toward practice skills. Many psychology departments do offer master's degrees in psychology that will allow you to do that depending on what country you're in. But master's degrees for practice can also be in other departments. A master's degree in counseling, a master's degree in social work, other kinds of areas like that could give you the master's level skills you want just for counseling. And I don't know what the guidelines are for master's practice in Ukraine. If you're interested in master's program, you need to dovetail those and find out. But if you're only interested in the counseling and not the full degree, master's degrees are available. And I wanted to point out they're not just in psychology. They're in other departments. There can be in counseling. They can be in counseling education, social work, etc. So that is my quick overview of doctoral programs, in particular in master's in psychology. And hopefully that's given you some thoughts and things to think about.
Thank you so much, Roberta, for going so much into the detail about the types of the programs. Actually, I also want to separately thank you for highlighting the importance of like finding a good fit, because that's something that we always tell to our students, that first of all, you have to find the program that matches your interests and goals. And I will encourage our audience to leave the questions in the comments, in the comments or in the chat. And we already have a question in the comments section asking about the age limit. So are there any age limits?
No, not in general. Now that may vary by specialty. I think the specialty that is the easiest with age limits is frankly counseling psychology. Some clinical programs restrict themselves to people straight out of their undergraduate program. They want people they can kind of mold and whatnot. You really need to check program by program. Some programs really prefer people straight out of undergraduate. Others are a lot more flexible. My counseling psychology program I went to in the 70s, that was the first year they admitted 3 of us that were not traditional straight from undergraduate programs. I had been in Peace Corps service and then come back to the U.S. when I was admitted. One person had, I can't remember what her background was, but a few years of experience. And then one was a man in his 40s with a wife and 3 children who had been a CEO, executive in a company, and wanted to come back and get his degree. And they had never admitted anybody who had not come straight out of their undergraduate program. And all 3 of us finished, and some of the others didn't. And then when I was in charge of Texas Women's University program, we had several career changers. A couple of attorneys who'd been in practice for a few years and decided they didn't really like law and they wanted to be psychologists. One was a CEO of a major computer company who'd been in therapy and decided he wanted to change careers. And when he got his degree, he was in his 60s, but happy. There were a couple engineers who retrained. So it depends on the program. Look for if you're coming straight out of undergraduate, they'll probably all be interested in you. If you're a little bit older, then check it out. There are no age limits specifically, but check it by program. That's a good question. Some of your parents might want to come to graduate school. Okay, what else?
Thank you. Actually, you've already started talking about about the age and change of careers. So that's not the question from the chat, but that's actually the question that our students ask us very often, whether having a degree in psychology is prerequisite. So basically, can a student with a bachelor's degree in a different field apply for graduate programs in psychology?
It's a little bit easier to get in if you have a bachelor's degree, but I have seen a number of students admitted with other kinds of degrees who have made the case in their essay why they took that degree and now they're interested in psychology, or how it's connected to psychology. I mean, if you have a degree in sociology, it's pretty easy to make the case. Some are harder. Again, it depends on the program. Some programs may want you to have an undergraduate degree. A lot of programs are more flexible. They will consider you, but you need to make the case of why. You may say, I got a degree in something else and I worked in it and it didn't fit, and now I want to do this. You just explain why your degree is different, but now you're interested in a psychology graduate program.
Thank you.
And then if you don't get admitted, the worst thing that happened is you can go back and take some psychology courses and try it again. I've seen people do that. They come from engineering or something, and then they've gone and back and taken a few courses to make their application stronger, and it worked.
I've also seen that sometimes some programs might have like prerequisites, specific courses in psychology, and some don't say that there's anything like that on their website. So it seems like, as usual, our answer would be, it depends. You have to check with the program. Fitz, what about your experience with this?
Now, is this in conjunction to give me 1 second. Let me take a look at the private chat again.
Yeah, so about changing the career, with a student with a bachelor's degree in a different field applying to psychology field, is that common, and how is that perceived?
Typically, from what I've seen, from the undergraduate level, yes, like Roberto just mentioned, if they got an undergraduate in sociology or something and they want to go into clinical psychology, case can be made for that, because typically, persons at the undergraduate level, they may want to get into a master's degree that is sort of specified, but it's not like they were thinking about it at the undergrad level per se, right? So a similar field would be fine. That's what I've seen in my experience.
Thank you. And we have a question in the chat. Actually, we're saying with that topic, and the question is, can I apply for a master's degree if I have PhD in psychology from Ukrainian university? I do not have bachelor's degree in psychology, though.
I'm not sure why you would apply for a master's degree if you have a PhD in psychology already.
I'm not. I mean, that wasn't my question, so I'm not sure, but I can assume, and I would encourage the audience member, because I can see the name, to specify. But I just assume that it might be just the desire, probably, to obtain a degree in a different educational system and maybe like learn from the US psychology experts. So I assume that this question might come from that. This desire might come from that place.
Yeah.
Well, if your PhD in psychology was from Ukrainian university, you might be looking at a master's degree in a different specialization. That would make sense, and you would say, I want to take this degree because I want more. Say you have a degree in clinical psychology and you get interested in industrial organizational, then you might then apply to an IO master's program. As long as you had a reason for it, I think it would be a possibility. And I don't think the bachelor's degree at that point would matter at all. I'm sorry, Fitz, were you trying to answer something about that too?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that, in that for the admissions process, an existing PhD in psychology would probably transfer to be the equivalent of a doctorate degree in US standards, right, for admissions purposes. So that our office should probably value it as an existing doctorate that you have. Okay, and so like Roberto just said, probably you are interested in a different field in psychology and want to obtain that degree in the US. but most times, we would say you already have a doctorate degree. Can you proceed another one for the admission standards?
Thank you. And the comment from the same user, to have a degree from American University as I'm living here now.
Right. I would think you could use your PhD from the Ukrainian university. There are programs I know when I worked in licensure areas, there are programs to check equivalence of degrees. And is your PhD in an applied area or a more research area? If it's an applied area, if you applied for licensure, they would have to look at I've also chaired the licensing board in Texas and worked for the organization that all the licensing boards in the US and Canada belong to. And there is a way that they can take a degree from another country and attest the equivalence. I know they have someone at the registrar at the University of Texas at Austin that does that. But the licensing boards have a way to look at the equivalence of your degree. And if you're wanting to use your degree from Ukraine for a job or something, if you can get it evaluated for equivalence, you may not want to get the master's degree. If it doesn't work out as equivalence, then I think it would make perfect sense to a master's program for why you'd be applying. And you'd probably be a very interesting candidate for them, actually. So there's no reason why you couldn't do it, but you may not need to. I would just suggest you have that checked out, or have Yulia give you my email address, and we'll try to figure it out.
Thank you, Roberta. Yes, indeed. So if you continue having very individual and situation-specific question, you can register for a consultation with the EducationUSA advisor. And if Roberta is willing to share her contacts, we would be also able to connect you with Roberta for further communication.
Also, if you just wanted to teach, say, at the junior college level, your degree would probably be fine, I'm guessing. Because with a master's degree, you can teach at the community college level. We have a community college system, which are the freshman, sophomore years only of college. And then you can get a degree that's terminal for some area that only requires a 2-year degree, or then you can transfer to a full-scale university and get your junior and senior years. And some people do that because the community colleges are less expensive than the universities.
Thank you for sharing that.
So you might either master's degree or that degree work in that system if you want to teach. My next door neighbor has a master's degree and teaches in that system.
Well, it's actually impressive how many career tracks there are available and how many options there are. So I think the bottom line here, if we have to reduce it to a few points, that would be to, as you said, see what this degree is equivalent of, and second is if you decide to apply to master's degree in the US, having PhD, basically have a reason for that and be able to make a case, be able to explain where you're applying for the master's program. And also it seems like one of the advice is to see whether you'd like to apply maybe to a different program, like with a different focus. Like if you come from clinical psychology, maybe organizational psychology would make sense. And we have another question. So how long do master's programs usually last?
About 2 years. It varies. Some require you to be full-time and you go through more quickly. Some allow you to go part-time and you can take 3 or 4 years. It really depends on how many courses you want to take, but they vary some.
Okay. Yes, it sounds pretty standard. Do we have more questions? I encourage you to use the comments box and leave the questions. We still have we still have 5 more minutes. If you'd like to use this time for your questions, we can absolutely do that. And meanwhile, I would like to again thank our speakers for being here with us today and sharing the expertise. Fitz and Roberta, thank you so much for your presentations and for answering questions and for being willing to contribute to your expertise. All right.
Thank you for having us. Always a delight to be helpful with education.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So we don't have any more questions, I believe. So I think that we can also thank our audience actually for being active today, for leaving your questions in the comments. If you still have further questions, make sure to use EducationUSA Ukraine website and register for consultations, or use our email to send further questions. We appreciate you being with us today, and Roberta and Fitz, again, thank you. We wish everyone a peaceful night or a peaceful day, depending where you're watching from.
Thank you.